Montecito, a picturesque community nestled between the ocean and the foothills of the Santa Ynez Mountains.
Montecito is beautiful naturally, but it is actually the community here that is so amazing and so special.
But like many communities in California, Montecito's year-round sunshine means long, dry summers that transform the surrounding vegetation into the perfect fuel for fire.
Everybody loves the weather, but that also makes for a hazardous area too in terms of fire. We have these long, dry summers, brings on fires.
The Thomas fires explode in size. More than 1,000 firefighters work to contain the threat. Residents receive mandatory evacuation orders, including Lalo and his partner Peter.
The Thomas fire moved here fairly quickly, and as it became clear that we needed to evacuate, they gave us 72 hours to leave the property.
Search and rescue!
So we loaded up all of our belongings that we thought were valuable, and we left. And it took us about a week or more to finally get the orders of coming back in and allowed to come back into the property.
From start to finish, the Thomas fire burned over 273,000 acres. There were 2 fatalities directly related to the Thomas fire.
Many have only just returned to their homes when warnings are issued about incoming rain and the possibility of flooding and mudslides, also known as debris flows.
The debris flow is usually caused after a fire because the fire burns the vegetation and now the slopes are bare. When it rains hard, then that water comes down those slopes which aren't protected, and now the water can mix in with all this sediment and create a cement-like slurry. And it can pick up rocks, it can float these boulders. 12 inches of water can float a 6-foot boulder. And so as that moves down, it's this grinding machine that just digs out the channels right down to the bedrock.
But while residents are urged to evacuate again, many are suffering from warning fatigue.
We were on the tail end of numerous back-to-back red flag warnings. We were kind of in a red flag warning fatigue because we'd been telling our resources every day, it's a red flag warning, so be on high alert. So you kind of go to that place in your mind, unfortunately, like, well, today's gonna be another day where nothing happens.
It came up to the point of the new worry of this rain coming, and we were told that we were in the voluntary evacuation zone, but we were so exhausted at that point. Peter just thought, you know what, we'll point the vehicles so that they're pointing outwards. If something does come to that nature, we'll just head out. That evening, Peter said, I'm aware that this could be a problem. I'm not gonna sleep. I'm gonna stay awake and monitor the creek. I was scheduled to work the next morning, so I went to bed, not thinking too much about it.
We knew that we would probably see some localized flooding. So that day we were filling sandbags and cleaning out culverts and looking at creeks and kind of preparing for a big rainstorm.
But no one is prepared for what's to come.
No one knew that that giant storm was going to park over Montecito Mountain and just dump. No one knew. No one had any idea.
Maeve is on patrol when the downpour hits.
I was parked on what used to be called the San Ysidro Bridge. It had just started to rain, and it started to get heavier and heavier and heavier, and it turned into this kind of extreme rainfall downpour. And to be honest, I got excited with the rainfall. And so I remember sitting in the truck thinking, this is great. You know, this is exactly what we need, and this is gonna bring an end to fire season.
It rained a ½ inch in 5 minutes, and that's equivalent to 6 inches per hour. That's a phenomenal amount of rain. It's just like grabbing a bucket of water and just throwing it, just chucking it onto the hillside. Really, that's what set things off.
The geography of Montecito makes it particularly vulnerable to fire, rain, and debris flows.
Montecito is in a hazard zone in a lot of ways. The formation of the San Ynez Mountains behind us and the fact that these steep canyons run right down into town.
The canyons provide natural pathways for flowing water. The formations remaining after these events are known as debris fans.
Montecito was built on a whole series of debris fans that come out of the mountains here. The canyons are stacked next to each other, and they're very steep, and as that sediment comes out, each one forms a debris fan and they overlap. And this overlapping debris fan has made this even slope that goes down to the ocean, and that is what Montecito is built on.
If the impact is anything like the 1938 Los Angeles mudslides, it could be catastrophic. The event killed 115 people, destroyed dozens of homes, and buried people alive. It's one of the worst disasters in California's history. In Montecito, it only takes minutes after the rains begin for the creek beds to fill and overflow. Two rare events come together, and then the unthinkable happens.
So within minutes, the debris flow occurred. Literally within minutes of the rainstorm. So it was a rainstorm that occurs probably every 100 or every 200 years. That came after a fire that occurs every 20 to 40 years.
As the deluge of rain hits the hillside, Maeve decides to patrol the area.
So I drove off the bridge and I took probably about 60 to 65 seconds before the sky just turned orange. I don't know how to describe it other than a massive ball of glowing orange. I wasn't sure what was happening because it was the middle of the night, and so I slammed on my brakes.
A natural gas pipeline is severed. The massive explosion lights up the night sky. But before Maeve can figure out what it is, she sees something else, more terrifying.
And as I looked to my side, I could see a glob of debris coming down. So it was water and tree trunks and boulders coming down the road at me.
Maeve's truck is hit full force by a deadly mudslide.
I didn't really have time to really decide on anything, and so I put it back in drive, and that's when the water swept my truck down the road.
Following the devastating Thomas fires, a 1-in-100-year rainstorm hits Montecito. Within minutes, the hillsides and everything on them are swept away in mudslides. Residents in the city below aren't aware that it's too late to evacuate.
A debris flow can be very destructive as it moves down through these steep canyons. It moves fast, it's sudden, it's got a front that's about 30 feet high. There's no warning about it except that it's been raining. And it's filled with boulders and large full-size trees. It tangles up on bridges and it finds new paths. And these large boulders, when they crash into houses, it instantly obliterates them. It really hits like a freight train.
Lalo is sleeping while his partner Peter keeps watch out the window. Suddenly, Lalo is wrenched awake.
My phone was giving the alert sound. I was so confused and disoriented. I felt like there was independent boulders shifting underneath the house. And as I started to realize the potential of what was happening, I looked over towards the creek and I could see huge 200-foot trees snapping down like twigs. I told Peter, I said, let's get the hell out of here. I tried to run as fast as I could to the front door where I always kept my keys. I was this close to actually grabbing my keys when the front door burst open and mud and water and everything started to flow into the house.
As Lalo's house is struck by the full force of the mudslide, Maeve's truck is swept away, with Maeve inside. She has only a split second to make a life or death decision.
I knew in that moment that I was gonna have to make a quick decision to try to get out of the blob. I knew that there was a driveway coming up on my left, and so as that driveway came up, I kind of prepared myself and turned the steering wheel as hard as I could in hopes that I could get out of the blob.
If she can't steer her truck out of the mudslide, she could be buried, crushed, or suffocated in the debris. But Maeve is lucky.
I successfully got my truck out of the blob and into a driveway. Immediately got out of the vehicle and turned around to kind of see what had happened behind me. And it no longer looked like what it had just a few minutes prior. There were power lines down, there were boulders, there were vehicles stuck everywhere. There was just stuff everywhere.